Hi all, this is Simona Rich, and in this video I'm going to analyze the natal chart of Barron Trump, who is the youngest child of Melanie and Donald Trump. And although most astrologers would have another chart for him, I entered the details for the chart for the birth time to be at 5 a.m. because usually people think he was born at 5:30 a.m. but then when you check, for example, Astro.com, it's told here that World Entertainment Network told that the baby was born at 5 a.m. in New York City. And I looked at both possibilities, and I think that it might be that he was born around 5:15 p.m. actually. But 5 a.m., excuse me, 5:15 a.m., based on the fact that he's very, very tall. So since Pisces ascendant gives short or medium height, I think that Uranus should be very close to the ascendant for him to look so tall, because if you look at pictures of him today, this year, for example, he is taller than his mom. He's very, very tall for his age, and he's like 12 or 13 years old. So 2016, 13 years old. He's very tall for a 13-year-old. So I think that Aquarius should be either in the first house or very close to the ascendant, but if it's 5:30 birth, Aquarius is actually in the 12th house, which would influence more the subconscious rather than his physical appearance, though that's also pretty close to the ascendant, so I don't deny that he might be born at 5:30 a.m. But I want to analyze this chart. 5 a.m. is quite likely, or 5:15 a.m. in my opinion. So we can see straight away that since both his sun and ascendant are in Pisces, it makes him very sensitive person. And we can see that his 12th house also is energized, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in his 12th and 1st house, which makes him very self-absorbed. A person who likes privacy, who likes to spend time alone. So actually being in the public is totally not for him. He's a very sensitive individual. You can also see that by his checking his moon, which is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius, but also it means that Scorpio influences the moon greatly, so it makes him secretive, it makes him very attractive, and also Sagittarius gives attractiveness, both of these signs, and it makes him very sensitive, very emotional. But it also shows, since his ascendant squares the moon is squared by the ascendant, it shows that he is disconnected from his emotions, or rather not disconnected, because his sun trines the moon, but he will find it difficult to show his emotions in public. Like he might feel deeply, but he will not show that. His face would be just blank, but he might feel very deeply, and that's what, of course, Scorpio does. People can feel deeply, but then they will not show it on the outside. So we can see that he is a very sensitive person, who, it is also shown, was hurt. His subconscious, very deep wound is shown in his subconscious. And we can also see that Chiron and Ceres are in conjunction, making the wound really deep, and they trine Mars. Mars is a malefic, though this aspect is not bad, but they also oppose Saturn, which can indeed indicate some kind of trauma, and I am quite sure of that because we also can see Mars in his 4th house in the sign of Gemini, which may indicate some kind of mental violence, mental trauma, mind control, it could indicate. And we also can see that he doesn't see his own beauty, that he's very shy in public, and that he is very sensitive. He is very sensitive in public. He feels the energies of people. He is extremely observative. He sees more things than other people because of the planets in the sign of Scorpio and Pisces, and also 12th house influence, which is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is there also. So this makes him very observative, very sensitive to surroundings, and that's why I believe we see him miserable in the public. He's too sensitive to the energies of people, and most people's consciousness is very low, so he feels the energies of aggression and just low vibes, and it makes him sad, and that's why I believe he's sad. And he might also be sad if there are discordant if there is discordant family environment. He is very affected by these things, so I feel actually quite sorry for him if he indeed experiences lots of discord in the family. It will affect him to a great degree. I will remove some of the aspects so that you don't see so many of them in this chart, so that it's clearer. So overall, I find his chart to show that he is not likely to be very ambitious and driven to succeed in any career, that his life is going to be quite easy, that if he wants to achieve something, it's going to come easier to him than for other people. And the only power thing that I see here is Pluto being in the 10th house, and it also makes him the person who will be noticed whether he wants it or not. And also it gives him Pluto and Moon being in the house, in the sign of Sagittarius, extreme love and need for freedom. And it's not likely that he will feel free, because, for example, Saturn is in the 6th house. Everyday work is a big burden, maybe work that includes lots of routine, and he probably hates it because his ascendant is in the sign of Pisces, and also because Uranus is in the 1st house, which likes different things, change and uniqueness. And it's shown that he will probably not like his everyday life, but he will enjoy his time alone because Venus is in the 12th house. But also, since Venus has a very unpleasant aspect, and that is it squares Jupiter, and this basically is a sign, and there are some other signs about the same confirming it, that he might be somewhat vain, that he might think of himself highly, and that he might be into overindulgences to a great degree, like many love affairs, secret love affairs, overeating. There could be also, since Neptune is in the 12th house and it also squares Jupiter, it could be that he might secretly do drugs or use alcohol, or somehow try to escape reality if he finds it too difficult. So these are somewhat quite unpleasant aspects that I see, but in general he's a good person. Just sometimes, and also it's shown that he might overspend, that he may not value money, and so he likes the life of luxury, and things may come easy to him, but this may lead to a life that is without any ambition, and it's quite surface. And since he doesn't appreciate money, he may quickly overspend. So this is again something that's not very pleasant. And also the fact that his second house of money is ruled by Mars, which is the planet of impulsiveness and energy. It doesn't help. It encourages overspending. And we see that the third house is in Taurus, whose ruler is Venus, and it's in 12th house. Again, means he's shy to express himself, but he comes across as a lovable person. And just the fact that Venus itself, even if it wouldn't rule third house, Venus itself is the when it's located in the 12th house, it usually makes people lovable because they're humble and shy in public, and is just very cute, and people obviously love him. Most people think him to be very different from the rest of the family, and they just really like him. And we can see that the 5th house is ruled by Cancer, and we find Cancer in the we find Moon in the 9th house. This may indicate, for example, this indicates that he is sensitive about the way that he spends time, and also it can indicate that he likes in his free time to travel or to be engaged in some kind of teaching or learning in higher education, interacting with other cultures, or even things to do with religion. And I already mentioned Saturn being in 6th, and what it means. We find Lilith in his 7th house, which means that his marriage is not likely to be lucky, and actually there are other indicators showing that his love life is going to be difficult, just for the fact again that Venus is in the 12th house, the house of self-undoing, which may mean, for example, that women might be, or love might be, responsible for his fall in life. And we find Venus being in opposition to Saturn, which makes it difficult for him to express his warmer side. People might think he's very cold. He's not a cold person, but he finds it difficult to express his warmer side because he's afraid that he will be hurt. And we find Jupiter being in the sign of Scorpio, and this gives him a sexual nature. He will probably enjoy things to do with intimacy, but also since his Venus is located in the sign of Aquarius, and it squares Jupiter in the 8th, and Jupiter is in the sign of Scorpio, it might mean that he will have some unconventional sexual taste. And Jupiter also in Scorpio means that he loves luxury, and Jupiter is retrograde, which means that later on this quality will manifest even more. And I think that's all I wanted to address. Maybe I should also say that although Pisces is a very passive sign, I guess the most passive, in the whole, out of all the signs, it's more energized by the fact that Uranus is there, but it also makes you more fickle. because Pisces already gives fickle tendencies, changing mind, suddenly doing something else, and Uranus will increase that even more. And we can see that it squares midheaven, which means that this kind of changeability will definitely not affect his career well, and will not affect his family well either, or family life well either. And we can see also, although Pisces is a passive sign, it's somewhat also energized by the sun, but the sun is in the 29th degree of Pisces, so it means that he is going to be influenced by Aries as well, to quite a great degree. So he is not supposed to be totally passive. He will also have this active side in him. So I guess that's all I wanted to share with you in this video. And I offer natal chart life assessment. So if you're interested, if you want me to read your natal chart, check the URL, which is simonarich.com/astro. Thank you for watching. Take care.